Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. Big Ten basketball power rankings episode. We got our guy Kent, casual Big Ten, here with us. Kent, this weekend, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy hoops. I mean, we had some upsets. We had a team that was nowhere near an upset in Madison Square Garden. I will not mention who it is because I know we have fans of that team watching. And then yesterday we had rivalry game upset. I mean, I felt like this weekend had everything.
Yeah. I mean, fun time of year for sure. It's late February. Things are starting to take shape as far as the Big Ten tournament is concerned. And you're seeing a lot more bracketologists come out of their caves at this point in the year and start putting numbers next to teams. It's a really fun time of year, man. Good time to argue about who's better than who. And we're going to settle it all right here today.
I was gonna say I don't know how much I'm gonna settle anything because if you argue with me too much on my power rankings, I'm just gonna throw my hands up in the air and be like, yeah, okay, you're right, whatever. Like,
That's exactly how I feel too.
part of part of going through this process, I was like, well, this team beat that team, and so this
Yeah.
team should be above this one. Then I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like I put Indiana above Nebraska this week, but Nebraska beat Indiana earlier in the year, and so
Well,
I'm
it's
like, well,
impossible. It's impossible to do like tit for tat at this point. Like
yeah,
I kind of went through I did it just a slightly different than I usually do, and I kind of weighted what's happened in like the last 6 weeks a lot more than I usually do because yeah, I could go back to, the beginning of January and say Illinois lost by 30, or I'm sorry, Illinois beat Oregon by 30, you know.
right.
And that was one of the first comments I got this morning on Twitter. If we have time, we'll get to those, but that was a long time ago. What's happened since then? So I kind of waited what's happened recently a lot more than I usually do, I think. Or I tried to at least. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, and I mean that's what power rankings do, right? They elicit excitement, they also make you cry, and they also make you shake in anger all at the same time. Like
For sure.
this is why we do the show. So
Yeah.
there you go. All right, so we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Let's check in with the comments first, and I actually have Twitter pulled up this time as well. So I have
Ooh.
comments from Twitter, which don't normally show up on StreamYard for some reason. So if you're on
Ooh.
Twitter, I will bring those up. But yeah, we're excited to get into it. John, of course, Indiana fan, John, he says after rewatching Indiana Purdue last night, I'm 100% convinced Kirk Cinetti was coaching the second half and not Mike Woodson. Good topic for our conspiracy theory episode that we're gonna eventually do. Kent, does this make the conspiracy theory episode here?
I was doing a quote tweet for the show and telling people to come comment, so I didn't read this. So as I'm talking right now, I'm going to read what he said. And yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He was in the building, the team was in the building. So even if he wasn't coaching, his aura, is that how you say that? Aura?
No, it's Aura, I think. Yeah,
Aura? Okay.
yeah,
It was there regardless of what you call it. It was in the building, and I think that the basketball team fed off that energy for sure. They had to have.
yeah, yeah. They did for sure. I mean, they played like a Cincinnati team, and they won because of it. So, yeah, great win by Indiana. We'll get into it, I'm sure. Bryce is saying I'm gonna cry if my Gophers miss out on the Big Ten tournament. Man, it's been a crazy season for the Gophers. You get that win over UCLA earlier on, and then they absolutely break your heart. Who did they lost to? Um, who is? Oh
Penn
yeah, Penn
State.
State.
Yeah.
So you get that win over UCLA, and then you lose to Penn State. That absolutely breaks your heart. I mean, Penn State, worst team in the conference. We both had them last in our power rankings last week. They get 2 wins this week, and it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just noticed that our 10 through 18 are exactly identical, by the way, as I was looking at like where Penn State is. And the real blow for Minnesota fans too was that Iowa picked up a win. So
Yeah,
that's tough. Like, because they look like the team that was trending super down there for a couple weeks. So for them to get any wins at all is hurtful for the Big Ten bubble watch. Big Ten
yeah,
tournament bubble watch. Sorry. Left out a word there.
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think this Big Ten bubble watch here at the end is going to be really interesting. Burke and I talked a little bit about it on Big Ten After Dark. If you're somebody who's up until like 11, 12 o'clock at night on the Eastern time zone, come on over, watch Big Ten After Dark most nights. Tonight we'll have one with Jason from Big Underdog. He's a bracketologist. You were talking about bracketologists. He's going to come on. We're going to recap the Michigan North Nebraska game. Excuse me, and then he's going to answer everybody's questions in the chat. So you got to be there live if you want to talk about your team,
Ooh,
and he'll answer everybody's questions from the chat and talk about the teams. So
that's awesome that we have a game on Monday because like Mondays have been horrible the last few weeks when there's no game and you get all excited from the weekend. And then you get to Monday, we come in here and talk about everything, and then there's no game. And it's like, got to wait a couple days. But we got one tonight. One or more. I don't know. I didn't check
just
the
one,
schedule yet.
yeah, Nebraska, Michigan, just one.
That's it.
Yeah,
At least we got one.
yeah. Yep, two teams that only played one game last week. Last week you only had Michigan, Nebraska, Indiana, and Northwestern. They only played one game, so to see Michigan and Nebraska play on Monday night, that's pretty cool. All right, few more comments, and then we'll get going. John is questioning Kevin Willard at 2. Didn't have that on my college basketball bingo card this year. I think it's more one of the best starting lineups in the nation at 2 than Kevin Willard at 2, right, Kent?
I mean, they're just hot right now. Like I said, I'm looking at what's happened the last couple of weeks more than anything. And I think I went back like 5 weeks. They only have one loss. It was that at Ohio State loss.
Mm.
So, when you're doing power rankings, what have you done for me lately? They just keep winning. They just keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. And they keep rising in my power rankings. So I think it's appropriate this week. They've been playing. I know I had some people over the weekend in my replies saying, is Maryland the best team in the conference? They might be. Could be. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, best starting lineup in the conference, probably. I don't know about best team, but it's a conversation. Let's see. Philip says, I think Purdue is more cooked than Illinois. Interesting conversation there. And his reasoning is he says Illinois has been sick and injured, Purdue has been healthy, and blaming the refs. I do think we need to talk about it, Kent. How, and Purdue fans won't appreciate this conversation, but I think those who are the realists can see, like, at least the comedy in it. That for 2 years, everybody complained about the refs for Purdue, and every Purdue fan say, well, you just got to play through it. Like, it is what it is. Now, Purdue fans aren't starting the calls because they don't have Zach Edey. And now you got Purdue fans complaining about the refs, and everybody else said, "Oh, you just got to play through it." Like it's funny on both sides because both groups are kind of like going at it from different ways. I don't know. It's just I find it funny every time I see it.
I definitely find it more funny from the side that is not supporting Purdue, though. I'll have to be honest, because for them to talk about, they've gotten the calls when Edey was there. Obviously, he was getting fouled, but they definitely, in my opinion, got a favorable whistle the last 2 years with him. And for it to be kind of flip-flopped on their head this year is comedy. I actually love it. And I would love it for any team. It's not because I'm a Purdue hater. I would love it if any team had this like narrative going for 2 years and then it just completely gets switched around. Phillips making some good points, though. They're not injured except for Caleb First's nuts yesterday. That's it. But everything else, I think that they're totally fine. So, yeah, there's really no excuses for them right now. And honestly, I do got to push back on one thing. I've been done with the excuses from Illinois at this point, too, though. Like, you could have a couple guys. You shouldn't lose by that much to anybody. If you're talking about a team that's supposed to go to a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8, you can't get punked like that by anybody, especially on a neutral floor. Like, yikes. And terrible, like, just an absolutely terrible performance, too. Like, what was it? 0 for 17, 0 for 18 in the first half from 3. We talked about that last week. If you're Underwood, the only thing that you could really change on offense is let's stop shooting so many threes, and they refuse to stop.
But if you shot 5 of 16 from 3 in that first half instead of 0 for 16, 2-point game.
That's true. I forgot about that part.
That's the first thing Brad said at his press conference. First thing. I love that he started the post game that way. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like Illinois has the players. Like Duke has an amazing 2-point defense. Teams have not shot well 2-pointers wise against Duke all season long, and then Illinois goes out and they're shooting like 5 for 18 from 2 at one point in this game, and then they're over 16 from 3, and it's like, what are you doing? Why are you nearly even in your 3-point column than you are in your 2-point column? Like, it's just Brad has to figure this out. I mean, this team can win, and this team is good. They just they can't be this 3-point shooting team that shoots a barrage of threes like Brad wants them to or thought he was preparing them to. But Brad's a good coach. Like, either he's gonna get it figured out or he's gonna flame out. I tend to believe Brad's gonna get it figured out, but I don't know. When you talk to Illinois fans right now, there's a lot of them that don't think he will. So we'll
Who
see.
was missing? Was there anybody big missing from that game? I can't remember now. It seems like I've watched too much basketball at this
From
point.
the Duke game, I don't think anybody was. I think guys were still sick and left over, but um,
But are they going to be saying that all year? Like, I feel like we've been talking about that for 2 months. Like,
yeah.
I think I said that literally 2 months ago. I said,
Perez Johnson, Phillips, right? Perez Johnson.
okay,
His
yeah,
wrist.
okay, yeah. But he's out for the year though. So
Yeah. It wasn't
mean,
just that game. He was out before that too, but yes.
right, because he broke his wrist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when going back to what he said about comparing injuries and like Purdue can't make excuses. Well, they're missing Daniel Jacobson. So what if they
And
had
we all
Daniel
know
Jacobson?
Daniel
All right,
Jacobson just as good as
hear me
Perez
out.
Johnson, right?
What if they had Daniel Jacobson? What if Illinois shot 7 for 14 from 3 instead of 0 for 17? What if Duke was the one that shot 0 for 17? What if that happened? Then what kind of game are we talking about? And Daniel Jacobson's healthy for Purdue for some reason that impacts it? What if that all happened?
All very fun hypotheticals to think about.
What if Juwan Howard was still at Michigan
Well,
and Thad Matta was still coaching Ohio State? Where would we be right now?
Oh man, if Thad Matta was still at Ohio State. All
What
right,
if
we
they
got rankings to
fired
get
Greg
to.
Gard? What if they
We-
actually fired him when the fans wanted to? Where
We
would
got rankings to
Wisconsin
get to.
be?
We got rankings to get to, Kent. The Michigan State people have not heard us talk about Michigan State yet, and
Oh, I'm
Michigan
sorry.
State had a fantastic week taking down Purdue. They also took down Michigan at Michigan. That was the talk of everything on Friday night. Before Oregon takes down Wisconsin on Saturday. We'll talk about that. And Indiana takes down Purdue. Like, there were just so many big teams that went down from good, either contenders or rivals and all this stuff. Like, really, really fun to think about. What are your thoughts on Michigan State here? We both have them first. I debated possibly putting Wisconsin first, but Wisconsin losing to Oregon, I just couldn't do it, so I put them at 3. But what's your thoughts on Michigan State?
Yeah, Michigan State, I've been saying this all year about them. You wouldn't think it if you looked at my replies because they were really upset about the power rankings last week. But I've thought that they were the best team, one of the best teams in the conference throughout this entire season. I feel like I've been kind of carrying water for them, which really hurt my feelings that people were so mad at me last week. But good game for them. By far, their best shooting performance from 3 all season. And do not stat check me on that because I'm not sure if that's true, but it felt true, especially when Trey Holloman went back to back to back threes. And that was really the difference in the game. And it makes me wonder, JR, what if he didn't do that? What if he didn't go back to I just want to do what ifs this entire show. No, but that was
Hypotheticals the whole time.
yeah. Really good performance by Michigan State, though. I think that what we talked about a little bit last week kind of came to fruition on what we talked about on the late night show. I think it was Thursday or Friday, where they did a really good job against Michigan's guards. Like, I didn't think that they could really get into the paint and do what they usually can do. And just an overall really good performance on the road from Michigan State and just looked like one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan State right now is reeling or is dealing. I mean, if you're gonna get 40% shooting from Michigan State and that kind of defense and the ability to get out on the break and run like that, Michigan State's one of the best teams in the country when they're doing that. The key to me is that shooting. Are they going to be able to get shooters? And then on top of that, Jace Richardson, he's turned into more of the guy, right? And he's not sharing the ball as much, which actually I'm okay with because I think he is a dude. And I think he just needs to go out there and be that dude for them. His turnovers are down, his assists are down, but his turnovers are also down right now. And you see that, playing out in the game because he's going out there. He's got a killer mentality, a killer mindset. He said, I don't care who's in front of me. I'm going to go score on these fools. And that's what he's doing most of the time, whether it's Purdue, whether it's Michigan. He doesn't care, and he's going out there and just being that dude. I think Jace Richardson, to me, I said it to begin the year when he started playing really, really well and he was coming off the bench. I said Jace Richardson is going to be the dude that makes a difference for this team. And it looks like he is going to do that for them. Obviously, the front court getting better, the way they're maneuvering that kind of stuff, like all of that is very good. Jaden Akins, Trey Holloman, you mentioned him. But for me, like Jace Richardson has to be that go-to dude, the dude that has a killer mindset that's going to be able to win games for this team.
Yeah. I do want to give a quick shout out to Cohen Carr too, because I look at these two teams and you take some players immediately and you can almost cancel them out, right? Like the two trays, like Donaldson and Holloman, you know what you're going to get from them. You know what you're going to get from Danny and Vlad. You know what you're going to get from Michigan State's bigs, and you know what you're going to get from Jace. Like you're going to get those performances. To me, the difference in this game was Reuben Jones versus Cohen Carr. And Cohen Carr had a much better game than him. And it wasn't just like everyone thinks about Cohen Carr, and it's the only thing you can think about is his high flying dunks, like the lobs he catches and everything that he does on the break. But to me, the biggest difference was all his offensive rebounds that he got, giving Michigan State more possessions, more opportunities to get points. And I thought he played a really well-rounded game, even though he did still have some of those highlight reel dunks. I thought he played really well, played pretty good defensively. There were times where he was stuck on like Danny, and I thought that he held his own. And everything else that he did throughout the game, like I said, the offensive rebounding and just everything. When I'm looking at this game, I think that matchup right there, even though they weren't technically matched up on each other, as two guys that like you really need to play well if you want to go win a game, I thought that Cohen had a better game than Ruben on whatever night that was, Friday night.
Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess transitioning over to Michigan now, like, are you like you put Michigan down at three? I put them just one down at two because I'm like this team's still really good. They had a game where Michigan State was just on it. I think
Yeah.
Michigan State played, up to, if not their ceiling, very, very close to their ceiling in this one. And I don't mean to say that like they can't get better. Obviously they can, but I think when Michigan State is playing that way, like that's an Elite Eight, that's a Final Four team. If they can get that kind of consistent shooting and they can get a guy on their team and Jace Richardson to take over when they need him to. I mean, what are your thoughts on Michigan? You have them at three, Maryland above them. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, no slight against Michigan. I still think that they're really good. I just felt like it's more of I wanted to reward Maryland for their performances that they've had throughout the last like 6 weeks. Like I said, they've only lost the one game, and it was at Ohio State, and Michigan just lost at home. So when it comes down to it, you still have to win your home games no matter who it is. And if you're the team that you're saying they're about to run away with the Big Ten title this year, you have to beat your rival at home, especially with the crowd that they have, the energy that they had there. Aiden Hutchinson's in the building. They didn't feed off his aura like they did Kurt Signetti over at Assembly Hall. So um, I just docked them a little bit for the home loss, and again, more of a reward for Maryland and what they've done than it is an indictment on Michigan. And I still think that they're a really good team. And to be honest, they still control their destiny because they do have a rematch with Michigan State. If they win out, they're still going to be outright Big Ten champions. So um, obviously still a really good team when you have that kind of control over your own destiny.
Yeah, I just want to see Maryland, get that big win that can kind of propel them up. They beat who was it this week? It was like a Ken Palm Stixie team or something. Yeah, USC this week. I mean, USC's dropping basically to everybody at this point. USC also lost to Rutgers yesterday, so which I know is at Rutgers and everything. I'm not trying to slight them, but if you're USC and you're battling for a Big Ten tournament bid, it's kind of like Ohio State. Like Ohio State shouldn't lose to Northwestern, and we'll talk about them later on, but. They shouldn't lose to Northwestern. I didn't think that USC should have lost to Rutgers in that one. Obviously, road game, stuff like that. But in my opinion, like Maryland, just they have to do a little bit more because I see a team like Wisconsin going out and beating Purdue. I see a team like Wisconsin going out and beating Illinois, and then I see Maryland beat USC, and it's like, okay, like I believe in you guys. You guys are a really good starting lineup, Crab Five, all that. Which they got T-shirts now, so I love
Do they
that.
really?
Yeah, we got to get some T-shirts. We'll wear them on the show. So I love that, but at the same time, like there's still aspects to this Wisconsin team that I like together cohesively as a team than I do this Maryland team right now at this point. Who knows? Maybe Wisconsin gets a little bit colder and they don't start hitting as many shots as they have been. But That's at least where I'm at right now. So you moved Wisconsin down to fourth, though. Really not liking that loss that they had against
Oregon.
Oregon. That's right.
I really didn't like it. I was actually very upset. I'm mad at them right now. We're fighting. Wisconsin basketball team can't blow that game. You just can't do it. Like I just said with Michigan, like you're at home, and Oregon has been a team that has been okay. Like they're almost on Ohio State's level where it's difficult to figure out what they actually are because they got big wins. They have blowout losses. Like we just talked about the Illinois one earlier on in the year. But Wisconsin had control of that game and they blew it. They absolutely blew it in the last 3 minutes of that game. So I had to move them down a little bit. And again, same thing I'll say about them that I said about Michigan. I still really like their team. I still think that they're, obviously top. Anybody in this top four right here, I think has separated themselves just a bit, right? I think that those four teams have proven over the course of the season that they are the top four teams in the conference. So the mixing and matching with all the parity that's in this conference, I know that people will look at it and say, well, like, oh, Wisconsin, they're better than that, or whatever. They can pick out any team. But when they're closely matched up in these power rankings, there's not really that big of a difference. I don't think there's a huge difference between Wisconsin and Michigan State, even, for example. I just think that based on the results, that's the order that I had to put it in.
Yeah, yeah. I think that obviously one team does things better than the other team, and pros and cons stuff like that. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think at the end of the day, these are all four of these teams are teams that can make a deep run in the tournament, in my opinion, and we might
Do
see
you
that
think
happen.
do you think like tiers would be better for people like visually? Like if I said, okay, these are the top four in the top tier,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean, I
did
think we
like a
kind of do that when we go through. We kind of declare like this is the four that we're
yeah,
like because we're going to talk about it here soon. Like probably 5 through 8, we have all the same teams. They're just mixed up in different ways,
right.
and then 9 through 11 is normally like that. But you and I have 9 through 18 all exactly the same. So
That's pretty. I think that's the most we've had. Like if we went through this, I guess everything else, I guess 2 through 8 is different, just mixed matched a little bit. But
yeah,
9 through 18, I think that's got to be the most we've ever had similar.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Let's talk UCLA. I have UCLA at 8. This is probably the biggest difference we have in it. You have UCLA at 5. You talking about Wisconsin losing to Oregon is kind of the way I feel about UCLA losing to Minnesota, or
Yeah.
losing to yeah, it was Minnesota.
Yeah.
64-61 at UCLA. I mean, and then Minnesota literally goes and loses at home to Penn State the game after that. So it's like I don't know, like this Mick Cronin team, they play some really good ball at times, but then also they're just they don't have that offensive instinct to just put a team away. And that's what you saw in this game against Minnesota, to where Minnesota was able to crawl themselves back, and win this game late. To me, that's concerning for UCLA.
Yeah, it is. I'm confused about that game as I am about anything. And again, it's another game, just like I was talking about, was Wisconsin and Oregon, that UCLA had complete control of that game, I thought, and then just blew it at the end, missed some free throws, and couldn't guard Dawson Garcia down the stretch. So absolutely cannot happen on your home floor, inexcusable. But here's my defense for why I have them above the other teams, though. Purdue has lost 4 in a row. Had to knock them down. So I put them below UCLA right off the rip. Oregon has been up and down, and like they have, like I said, they have some bad losses, they have some good wins, just like UCLA does. But then Illinois, I couldn't put them any higher than any of those teams just based off the. I will say I based it off the Duke game quite a bit. Like that was so embarrassing that I had to move them down. I literally was like, I think I started with Illinois and was like, how low can I get them off of that loss? And that's as low as I could go, was 8. And that's why I have UCLA in front of them. I guess I didn't really make a good point for why I have them in front of Oregon, but I think it's just because I like Mick Cronin more. Is that fair enough?
Well, UCLA has also beat Oregon twice this year.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's what it was this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's honestly what I thought about putting UCLA at 6, but then I'm also like, well, Illinois just beat them, but UCLA beat Oregon twice this year. And so then when it comes down to all that scrambling, I'm just like, who do I think is the better team? At the end of the day, who do I think is the better team? And right now, I think that Oregon is shaped out to be a better team because of the way Dana Altman plays his lineups. I think Mick Cronin is getting in his head too much with Adeyemora and trying to like limit him at times and not kind of, give him the full, trust that he deserves. You don't see that with Dana Altman and Nate Biddle. Like he's put Nate Biddle out there as much as he possibly can because he knows he is the best chance for this team to win. And then Illinois wise, like even though Illinois is struggling right now with like shooting and Brad Underwood with trying to game plan, like all that stuff, I still think Illinois is a better team than UCLA. Like they beat them too. I still think that this team in Illinois is a better overall team. They don't play to their strengths enough. And I know I get what you're saying about Duke and everything, but like let's also look at who Illinois has played. Like we talk about the murderous row for Purdue. Like let's talk about the murderous row that they just went through for Illinois. They played UCLA, Michigan State, at Wisconsin, neutral site game against Duke. Like I get it. I'm not trying to make excuses, and that was ugly, losing by what was it, 40, 30, 40 points, however much it was. But this is also an Illinois team that just went through a murderous row, in my opinion. And I can't dock somebody too much for losing to really, really good teams. I can dock UCLA more for losing to Minnesota. To me, that's worse. Losing to Minnesota by 3 than losing to Duke by 40.
And I can't defend that. So you're definitely right about that. That is worse. But here's what I'll say back to you about Illinois. I said that I'm kind of taking a look at what's happened in the last 5-6 weeks. They've lost 7 games in the last 5 weeks. That's a lot of games, and UCLA hasn't. So that's kind of what I look at. I mean, yeah, they had some tough teams. Michigan State, Wisconsin, Duke. That's tough. They lost at Rutgers. That's a win that you need. If you're Illinois, and I feel like we always talk about this with them. We always say, like, they're so good. They're so good. And then, like, it's like, oh, but they always lose. They always lose games that they shouldn't lose. And why does that keep happening? Okay, they're sick. Okay, I get it. This guy's out. Okay, I get it. But, like, when are we going to see this team be what they're supposed to be? I just don't think that it's ever going to happen at this point. We got 3 games left. Are we going to see it? The last 3 games? I don't think so. The Maryland loss still, to me, like, is within the scope of what's happened recently. And that was probably the most embarrassing. That was the second most embarrassing loss that they had just because of the way that they lost that game. And then obviously Duke was the most embarrassing one. So I feel like you put all those 7, 8 if you want to go back 6 weeks, 8 losses into a pot, it's still worse than what UCLA's done in the last 6 weeks. Even when you add Minnesota or the Minnesota loss that UCLA just suffered at home. Yeah, that's really bad, but I still think it's less bad than what Illinois has done when you combine it all.
Okay, so let's do this really fast, and I'm not necessarily arguing with you. I just think this exercise would be helpful for us to do.
Okay.
Last 8 losses for Illinois. You tell
Okay.
me if it's a bad loss or not. At Michigan State, lost by 2.
That's not a bad loss.
Okay. Home against Maryland, lost by 21.
Bad loss.
Okay. At
Because of the score, not because of the team, because of the score.
Okay. All right. At Nebraska, lost by 6.
Bad loss.
I mean, Nebraska's
If you're
10th,
Illinois,
though.
that's a bad loss.
I mean, but Nebraska's 10th, though. I wouldn't say good loss, but I also wouldn't say bad loss.
Can I say medium bad loss?
Yeah, I wouldn't say bad loss, but I wouldn't say good loss.
Okay.
I'd be like, frustrates me, but I get it type of deal.
Yeah.
At Rutgers by 9.
Bad loss.
Michigan State at home by 14.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I'll say good loss because Michigan State's so good.
At Wisconsin by 21.
So many points. Good loss, I guess.
Duke
loss.
and Madison Square Garden by 43.
That's a bad loss. That's a bad loss. You gotta hang with them a little bit, man. Come on.
I think the biggest thing is like the teams they're losing to, I don't necessarily think are bad teams to lose to. It's the manner in which they're losing and the point differential is kind of my point here, where it's like if Illinois was losing these teams by 5, 10 points, people would get it and people wouldn't say too much, right? But the fact that they're losing by 20 or 14 or 43 is the point where it's like, what is going on with this team?
Yeah.
And it really just makes you question them a whole lot more. But that's the thing too. Like they also they played really close against Tennessee. They beat Arkansas earlier in the year. I know Arkansas is not great, but still, like I don't know. To me, I don't want to overreact to losing to good teams, but I also see what you're saying with like the point differential is just so large that it's a
Yeah, and
bad
it's
loss
so
in
many
itself.
of them too. Like how many
Yeah,
bad like I think we can at least agree that 4 of those losses were bad, right? So
because of point differential, yes.
right. Not because of the team, but just because of the manner in which they lost. Like I said, even the Maryland one, it's not a bad team that you lost to. It's just how you lost at home to that team
Yeah,
shouldn't happen if you are what you say you are or what you've claimed to be like going into the season or even throughout the season with all the excuses. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just tough for me to keep them any higher. It's been
I
a
hear you.
frustrating season for Illinois fans, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And more frustrated with Brad than anything else because of the talent that Brad gave you. Like Brad gave you a super talented team that has NBA players on the roster. To me, Illinois fans are going through a bit of the same frustration that Indiana fans are
Yeah.
going through right now. It's just Indiana fans have been further along this
Yeah. They
in-game
experienced it
coaching.
much faster.
Yes. But that's the thing. Like Illinois didn't experience it last year. They went to an Elite Eight. So it's also the thing like yeah. So Brad's just got to figure out how to get his guys to actually play to their strengths and not put them in a box and say, this is my team and this is what they're going to do and this is what they're going to be good at. And that's hard.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. Like I get that. But Brad's got to do
It
it.
is hard, but you know what though? He makes a lot of money.
That's what I was going to say.
So figure it out, buddy.
Yep.
That's
Figure it out,
why that's
Brad.
why I don't mind like putting pressure on these guys. Even the players now at this point. I don't mind putting pressure on them anymore because there's so much money being thrown around. It's like you can't be mad at me. I'm not even involved in this. I'm just
Well,
saying that you're not doing a good job with the amount of money that you're making.
according to Matt Painter, though, you're not a true fan if you're on Twitter doing that.
Matt Painter has got to get off his like he hates Twitter so much, but he can't stop talking about it. Right? Isn't
He
that funny to you?
he strikes me as one of those guys that's like, I'll never get on Twitter. Like Kirk Herbstreit kind of, where it's like, I deleted my Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. But then
Yeah.
he talks about stuff on Twitter. And it's like, I thought you just said you
Yeah.
weren't on Twitter. And he's like, well, I'm not. And it's like,
I'm not.
okay,
Dude.
but you you talk about it all the time. So, um, yeah. Um, all right, let's talk Indiana. They beat
Okay.
Purdue. That was their only game of the week. I don't know how much we need to talk about 10 through 18. I do want to get to your comments and probably talk Big Ten tournament bracketology. So let's do this quick. Indiana they beat Purdue. They don't have any other games that week. I mean, I moved them up, probably 3 or 4 spots. I think it was just impressed with that win. But overall, like I don't know if they did anything in this game that swayed me substantially to think that like Indiana is remade and they're going to go on a run here to end the season or anything like that. What do you think?
No, they didn't, but it is interesting to me that their last 3 games were included 2 wins against Purdue and Michigan State. So that is pretty impressive, especially because the Michigan State one was at Breslin. So that was impressive to me. And then obviously the way again, going back to the point total, like how much they beat Purdue by yesterday and how dominating it was, especially in the second half, was impressive. But the overall body of work is just so bad still that there's no reasonable person that could say that they're any higher than 9 at this point in this conference because of all the losses. I mean, it's just been too many. Like we said, they've already been through this like earlier on in the season. Then Illinois has been through it. So they know they're not like, I feel like they're going to be the most reasonable about these power rankings than anybody because they know what has happened this year. No one from Indiana, I feel like I could be wrong about this, but I would be shocked if I heard anybody from Indiana being like, "Oh, we just beat Michigan State. We should be higher." I don't think anyone would say that. So,
They just played
impressive that they won those 2 games, but also really unimpressive most of the rest of the season.
they just played their 11th quad one game in a row.
That's insane. I was just looking at their schedule, how rough it was. But here's the thing: they lost against Northwestern beat them recently, like
Okay,
semi
so
recently.
let's play the game. Last 8
Okay.
losses. Here you go. You ready? Last 8 losses. At Iowa, 85-60.
Bad loss.
Okay. That's 25-point differential.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Illinois lost by 25 points.
Bad loss.
Illinois was dealing at that time. That was
Okay, fine.
mid-January.
Good loss. Good loss. That was
Okay.
at home though, right?
No, at Illinois. Or no, it was at home. You're right. Yeah. That was the game where they were chanting Firewoody.
Yeah, that's bad, right? You don't want that to be happening during the game, so that's
Yeah,
got
that
to
was
be
probably bad. That was probably bad. Bad optics. At Northwestern by 9.
bad loss.
Okay. Maryland by 1.
I'm okay with that loss. That's a good loss.
Okay. At Purdue by 5.
Good loss.
At Wisconsin by 12.
Good loss.
Michigan by 3.
Good loss.
UCLA by 4.
Good loss. I feel like they have better losses than Illinois. Maybe
So
I
their
should have put
past
Indiana in front of them.
their past 7 games, they've won 2 of their past 7 games, but all 5 of those losses we would say are quote unquote good losses.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
But
insane.
but the bad ones are pretty bad though.
They are pretty bad.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's tough.
Indiana here, they have the opportunity to still make the tournament with this final stretch. Like, they're not going to rack up any, like, top tier wins, but they can kind of keep their thing that they've been banking on, which is, like, we don't have any bad losses. All of their losses are quad one losses. They don't have a single loss outside of the quad one. So you have Penn State, at Washington, at Oregon, Ohio State. Like, those are all 4 winnable games for Indiana.
If they make the tournament, there will not be a team that I'm cheering more for than them. Like I want them to go to the Final Four with Mike Woodson and then let him go.
I would say, how far do they have to go for Mike Woodson to stay?
He's not
Or
staying.
does Mike Woodson just walk and he's like, F you guys? Like,
He's gone, dude. He wants to golf. He's done with this. He might want to lose on purpose. He might get in the
true.
tournament and just like absolutely blow it on purpose. Dude's trying to go hit the links. He's done, man.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, if Indiana makes a tournament, I'm rooting very hard for them. So.
Even if they go to the Final Four, I don't think he would come back. I think he would. I think he would be like again. I don't know everything that happened like with the administration and everything behind closed doors, but he it feels like it would be odd for him to come back, even if they went really deep in the tournament. It would seem really weird if he came back.
Yeah,
and he doesn't strike me as a guy that would want to after the season that he's had and like all the rumors and everything. It doesn't seem like he's the guy that's going to be like, okay, well, I did good and you guys still want me, I'll stay. No, I don't think so.
No, he's too spiteful. Woody's got some spite in him, I think.
For sure.
John says if Indiana goes 3-1 down the stretch and wins a game in the Big Ten tournament, they're 100% in the tourney. I can't say I disagree. I mean, if all of those losses stay as quad one, probably Northwestern is the one you're looking at that might. No, at Iowa is probably the one you're looking at that's the most risky to lose because they're 64th right now in net, and you have to be top 75 to keep it as a quad one. But yeah, I mean, if all of your losses are quad one, and you go, what are they right now? Their record is 16-11. You go 20-11, and all of your losses are quad one, or 19-12, all your losses are quad one. You're in the tournament, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they get to 20, regardless, I think they'll be in.
Yeah,
so if they win,
that's what John is saying here.
Like John's saying, if they win 3 and then 1 in the Big Ten tournament, they'll be fine. It'll be interesting what their draw is going to be in the Big Ten tournament, though.
I think I'll switch my basketball fandom from Ohio State to Indiana.
Yeah, you have to. If they make the tournament, like, why not cheer for them, right?
At least until Diebler's gone.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I do like Diebler. I mean, we've hashed this out. I don't need to go through it again.
Yeah.
All right. Bottom 4 or bottom part of the Big Ten bracket bubble. So right now you have Washington, Northwestern, and Penn State. They are who we have as our bottom 3. They are also the bottom 3 in the Big Ten standings right now. As I pull them up because
are they? Because I didn't even look at that.
Yeah, so the last place is Washington 4-12, Penn State 5-12, Northwestern 5-11, and then the 3 that are in front of them are all tied: Iowa 6-10, USC 6-10, Minnesota 6-10.
Interesting. Like I think it's really interesting that we said the magic number or like a couple of weeks ago was 7, didn't we?
Yeah, which Rutgers just hit yesterday.
So they're in. Like
Think so.
maybe, right? I guess anything can happen still. Um,
I mean, you would have to have Northwestern and Penn State both. Like even Northwestern, I don't know if that's a guarantee, but you would have to get both, if not one of them, to win 2 games, and then Rutgers would just have to lose the rest of their games. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'd have to pull up all their schedules and see who they're all playing. Like, which I'm not going to do right now, but um, man, tough because I thought Washington was starting to turn the corner, and I was starting to think like, oh, maybe they'll make a push, and I will get to see them in Indianapolis in a couple weeks. But it's looking like that's very
Phillips
yeah.
says
There we
they're a
go.
lock out of
There,
the Big
Phillips
Ten
on it.
tournament.
Yeah, Philip, just get to the point of what I'm trying to say. They're out. Good job, Philip.
I think
Um,
I think that their final 4 games just make it too difficult. You're at Wisconsin, Indiana, at USC, Oregon. They could win Indiana and at USC maybe, but I mean that's only 2 wins though. That's not enough to get them in the tournament.
I'd really like to see Northwestern make it. I'm pulling up their schedule right now as I talk and see who
Yeah,
they
they're
got
actually
playing.
the most interesting one because they play both Iowa and Minnesota, both two teams with 6 wins. That Ohio State win
Mm,
was absolutely huge for Northwestern.
huge. Okay, so dang, that's tomorrow night too. That at Minnesota game. Oh my goodness, this is about to get spicy.
Appointment television. Appointment
Yes,
television.
it is, dude. Yes, it is. The thing is, I want both of those teams to be there though, because I want to see Parker and I want to see my Northwestern guys. Oh man, I don't know who I'm cheering for tomorrow.
Well,
I think I have to cheer for Northwestern though because Minnesota has a game on them already,
yeah,
so it
I
kind
was
of
gonna
evens it
say
up, and maybe then they can both make it.
USC seems too talented to not make the tournament, but like it could happen. Like their only guaranteed win, and I don't even know if it's a guaranteed win because I just said Washington could win. Is they play Washington, and the rest of their games are Ohio State at Oregon at UCLA. Like they'll probably
Ooh,
beat Ohio State, but at the same time, Ohio State like they just lost 2 in a row. Are they gonna get back? I don't know.
man, I'm literally I don't think I've ever been like this before, but I'm speechless when I'm looking at the bottom of these rankings, like the Iowa, Minnesota, USC, and then Northwestern, Penn State, and Washington. It's just like I almost want to fast forward time just to see who's going to win these games this week. And it'll start. I don't even know if it'll take shape after that, though. I think it's going to come down to like the last games to see who actually gets in. And I have to double back on this one more time, but I was completely wrong about this. I thought I wanted all 18 teams in the tournament, but this is so much more exciting
Mm-hmm.
to have 3 teams left out. It's insane.
So the website that I use for like projections and stuff like that is projecting. Okay, there's the conference. They are projecting that the current bottom 3 will be out of the Big Ten tournament, with Minnesota and Iowa as the next 2 that are very close. So they're projecting that Washington, their 5 wins, those are all the 5 wins they're going to get in the conference. Penn State could get another win, but it's unlikely. Northwestern is nearly tied with conference win total to Minnesota and Iowa. So,
Well, the thing
yeah.
for Washington is like they would have to win the rest of their games to make it, I feel like.
Yeah, because
Right?
what do they have? 4 wins?
Oh, they have 4 left. So they're I would be shocked if they won at Wisconsin tomorrow, but they're definitely not winning 2 more games, especially if USC is like fighting to get into the tournament and that's at USC next Wednesday. That's gonna be a tough one for Washington. So yeah, they're out for sure. It's
Yeah.
just gonna come down to like I think it's gonna be between. Obviously, we already know who it's gonna be between, but that game tomorrow night is actually huge though. The Northwestern Minnesota game, it's massive.
It feels like the Rutgers Washington game from last week. That was out like 10:30 at night that nobody watched.
Yeah, which was a great game by the way.
It was. It was awesome. All right, that's your Big Ten tournament bubble watch to pay attention to. Kent, let's get to the comments on your power rankings. We did have somebody like like I can't bring the comment up for some reason. We had somebody like the video on Twitter, and then they immediately after that said Kent is so casual afterward. So apparently they
Me?
like how casual you are. Yeah,
Me?
yeah, you.
No way. Wait, where was the comment at? I didn't see that.
It was under the live stream.
Oh, gotcha. All right. I had I'm not even gonna say everybody's at, but somebody posted the Illinois at Oregon box score as a reply,
Mm.
as if to say like Illinois should be in front of Oregon. I think that teams that are right next to each other get really butthurt when they're behind a team that they beat, and I understand that, but there's more to it than that. So,
But I think like there's eventually like an expiration date, right? Like
yes, and that one is expired, heavily expired.
yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe not. Um, Interesting choice to have Iowa behind 5 teams they beat.
Well, okay. If we do this,
Right, that's what I said. So I actually did respond to that one, and I said USC beat you guys, and I have them behind you. You're welcome.
yeah.
So you could do that with everyone. I will shout him out. Big Kurt, B1G Kurt. He said Illinois too high.
I love when fans of teams.
I
say
know,
their
me
teams are
too.
high.
It's the best. It's the best when they do
We've
that.
had Kurt on football episodes, but yeah, we love Kurt here.
Yeah, Tennis World. I'm saying everyone's at now. I don't even know these people. I feel like Illinois. I think it's funny that someone named Tennis World commented on this, but I feel like Illinois should have to be in last for a week after representing the Big Ten like that. It's a fair
They
point.
have to be permanently, not permanently. It's just like a temporary last place for losing by 43 to Duke.
Yeah. And
On
then we
Fox
have
Primetime
Logical
Hoops.
Spartan said Purdue too high. And then I think I want to end on this one because this is super important, I think. Oh, wait, I got a Crab5 hashtag by somebody. Crab5 is going to thoroughly embarrass this quote-unquote Spartans. I don't know why that's a quote.
Let's just say that's their nickname.
That's actually their name. But Jeff said 1 versus 2 Wednesday, period. Absolutely. That's going to be, I mean, talk about appointment television with the Northwestern Minnesota game. I am the most intrigued about Michigan State traveling to Maryland. This is going to be a fantastic matchup. I cannot wait to see what happens.
I was gonna say let's go through the games coming up really fast because we only have a couple more minutes. But let's go through the games coming up really fast each day and like which ones we excited about. Because Tuesday, Northwestern Minnesota on Peacock, that one's gonna be interesting because
Yes.
the bubble race. Iowa, Illinois. If you talk to Illinois fans, this is the only chance they have for another win this season. I would remind you that Purdue's on a 4-game losing streak, but that's fine. I get what I get Illinois fans are down. Wednesday, what'd you say? Michigan State, and Maryland. That's appointment television. And I know everybody's staying up to watch Ohio State USC at 10:30. You know,
Got to go see my boy Wesley Yates.
Rutgers at Michigan. I'm not super interested in that one. UCLA Purdue on Friday though, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's probably the one that I'm third most excited about.
Yeah.
They're like tied in the standings right now. I was texting Russ about this because we almost had a bet before the season about who would finish higher in the standings. UCLA. I had
remember
UCLA.
that. Yeah.
And I texted him and I said that would have been an actually really interesting bet because they're tied right now when they play on Friday.
Yeah. That's true.
But it's at Mackey, so I'm not really confident in UCLA. It's gonna be a tough one for them.
Yeah. Saturday doesn't have a great slate. I mean,
No,
it's kind of underwhelming. I mean, you have USC and Oregon. Like that could be good, but there's not really anything.
but then
great there.
Sunday though, let's get to Sunday. Oh yeah, baby.
Sunday's
Those are some
gonna be
good
awesome.
ones.
Wisconsin at Michigan State at 1:30, and then Illinois at Michigan. CBS is rolling in with the Sunday games, man.
They really are.
Yeah.
Michigan State is the most fun team to watch, not because they're just Michigan State, but it's because of how interesting it is to see them match up against all these different style of teams and like see what they're going to do. They make it really intriguing to see like What are they going to do? Like even last Friday, it was like, what are they going to do against the two bigs? What are they going to do against Maryland, who has really big and strong guards that can play defense really well? Like that's what I'm looking forward to on, what was it, Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
And then same thing, like what are they going to do against Wisconsin, who has really quick guards that can score and that can actually shoot the three? Really athletic team that can really match up. They could actually match up with them athletically. They're just really fun to watch for every single matchup. And I'm glad that they've had these big games, because it's just been like really exciting to watch. I don't know
It
what
has
I'm trying
been.
to get at here.
No, it has been. So those are your games this week. Pay attention to and watch. Even your little Big Ten bubble games there. Gonna be fun. Kent, I think that's all we got for this episode. I got a call here in a few minutes, so
All
gotta
right.
get off. Anything else you want to get to before you get out of here?
I think that's it.
All right. Put in a good day's work. These are our power rankings. Like them, don't like them, is what it is. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Big Ten After Dark tonight. Me and Jason from Big Underdog talking bracketology. We will talk about whatever teams you want to talk about in the chat. Probably
Awesome.
10, 15. We're going to recap the Michigan-Nebraska game first, let people get in. And then whatever teams you guys want to talk about, we'll go for about an hour in the chat. We'll go from there. And then Tuesday night, probably not a Big Ten After Dark because I have a football episode that night. That was too much doing it last night, doing a football episode and Big Ten After Dark.
That's a lot.
It was
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of brain power.
It was.
Is Jason gonna get mad if I come in and ask what Washington has to do to make the tournament?
Uh, I don't know if he'll get mad. I think he'll give you a
You
weird
said you'd
look.
talk about anybody.
Sure.
Okay. I'm there then.
Yeah, you get there. And then Wednesday we'll have a Big Ten After Dark. Pretty much if there's not a football one, if I have time, we'll get there. And my furnace should be fixed by Wednesday, so that's a huge thing too.
I didn't know it wasn't fixed yet. You just told me it was broken. You never told me it wasn't fixed.
Yeah, they don't get the motor for it until Tuesday.
Oh man, brutal.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right.
All
My
right, bye
my son is
everybody.
sleeping in my son is sleeping in the bathroom at my in-laws' house. My yeah,
Brutal.
it's fun times, but we're warm. That's all we care about. All right, everybody. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. Have a good one. See you next time.